See something you like or maybe didn't like on this episode? Let us know. We want to hear from you. Email comments at contextwithlorna.com or call our viewer feedback line at 1-800-215-4913.
Before the break, we asked our studio audience, would you call upon a church community if you or your family were in a crisis? And here is how our studio audience voted. 24% said yes, 33% not so sure, 43% said no. And now the conclusion to our exclusive story on the remarkable rescue of Rita Chretien, who was lost in the Nevada wilderness for 49 days. Her husband, Al, has not been found. We'll hear now about the peace Rita found in the wilderness when she thought she might never make it out. By day 49, Rita felt her body weakening and lay down on the back bench of the van to die.
And I was quite content with that, and I went to sleep. And 2 hours later, approximately, I figured it out later after I was rescued, I woke up to a noise, and it was the ATVs coming around the corner. I could hear them from afar off. That's what woke me up. And for some reason, I jumped to my feet. I didn't even realize I was awake. And I yanked that door open and flagged them down.
Chad and Whitney Herman and Chad's father, Troy, were scavenging for elk antlers when they spotted Rita's van on a deserted logging road. The group hadn't planned on taking the route that led them to Rita. Now, Rita is still driving the van she was rescued from. Rita, what have you concluded about Albert?
Well, mostly I think he must have passed away and maybe froze to death. But there's still that little inkling of hope that maybe something really unusual happened. Maybe he is safe somewhere and just surviving, still lost. I just can't seem to put it out of my mind till I know for sure.
What's being done to look for Albert?
Well, there's been extensive searches over and over, and they can't find anything. Now there's hunters out in the hills, and I guess that's our last hope, really, of them finding him.
I highlighted Boise to Twin Falls, and I put, look in this area.
Rita's neighbor, Hannah Ryland, had called every church along the route to Vegas to search for the missing couple. After Rita was found, Hannah called every hunting guide to make sure the search for Albert continues.
Hannah called me several times and, didn't take no for an answer at all. Anyway.
Hunting expert Blaine Jackson says traffic soon increases in the area Al went missing.
Like, we're going to do a whole bunch of hunts over there in the next month, okay? And we glass tremendous distances of country, and it might be somebody will find, the remains of him here soon, because all of those hunts in there for elk and mule deer are getting ready to open.
Bad weather and disorientation were Al's greatest risks. Hunting cabins stocked with food were less than 5 kilometers away from Albert and Rita's van. They too were heavily searched. It's territory a GPS is lost in.
Yeah, they're a nice tool, but they're not the thing that you should depend on solely.
And while Rita still has regrets, she's deeply grateful for her rescue.
Just thought, yes, I'm really here. I had to almost pinch myself to see if it was really real.
What did you learn about what was going on while you and Albert were lost?
I couldn't believe how many people were praying. When I found out how caring even strangers, many strangers across the country, across the states, and even in Africa were praying for us. I was thinking, wow, that is amazing. And they didn't stop, and they haven't stopped yet. They're still praying. It's just awesome.
After returning home, Rita's pastor asked about the source of her strength.
I said to her, I says, Rita, how did you manage to survive physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally? And her answer to me, she said, I knew only one thing needed to survive, and that was my relationship with Christ. And I thought about that. Her physical, emotional, and mental well-being followed because she followed through on making sure her spiritual life was well. What a great truth for all of us to know when we face the struggles of life. She faced this wilderness experience, and then she came through it and said, this is what helps you to survive. When you work on your relationship with God, all these other things will find its proper place. And I says, wow, that's a great truth. When you work on your relationship with God, all these other things will find its proper place.
For Rita, life is gradually adjusting to a new normal. Now she runs her husband's excavating company.
I kind of think that life will still be the same like it was before. Like I've always trusted in the Lord, and I maybe know how to better now than I used to.
So life is a journey with God.
He still has to rescue me, but it's a daily thing. Rescue me from my fears, and I think He will.
You were really the least likely of temperaments to be able to manage 49 days in solitary aloneness.
No. If you would have asked me ahead of time, I wouldn't have thought that I could do that, but it was one day at a time. Just like life is one day at a time now, too.
And how critical is your friendship with Christ?
Well, it's very important to me. It always has been, but now I know it's a deeper walk, and without it, I don't think I could survive life. I don't think I'd have enough meaning to be excited about life. I am excited each day. Each new day is great, and it's because God is there to guide me, and I know the future isn't in my control. It's in God's control.
When we return, the remarkable disciplines for recovery that Rita Chretien discovered and how they aren't that far out of reach for all of us. That's coming up.